Hello, viewers. We were here talking with José Ortiz Camargo Neto, who is a journalist and a teacher at our courses at Analytical Trilogy. And we were commenting with him about the real social therapists that exist today, and mainly in the future, are going to be the professionals in the area of communication, who, learning about this area of psychosocial pathology, will be responsible for the conscientization of humanity. A journalist, a professional in radio, a professional, in other words, in any means of communications, be it television, will have the obligation of transmitting the truth to the people. However, the heads of these individuals who work in the communication area are inverted. One doesn't have the instruments or sufficient means to teach the population to see the truth of what is going on behind certain things that take place on many occasions, or of how to conscientize psychosociopathology. Also, learn to see what is goodness, what is beauty, and what is the truth, thus generating a mechanism of social therapy of the masses and on a large scale. And this is what Dr. Keppe has been doing for many years through the airing of television and radio programs, conferences, literature, publications, and newspapers. This is a social therapy of the masses. And the professionals in this area of communications need to have more than any other professional study these discoveries. Because, for example, in the field of health, there are many inversions that have been introduced, mainly in the first half of the 20th century, when Rockfeller and Carnegie themselves, as Dr. Geraldo has been saying on our television programs and in our courses that he is giving here at CITA, Dr. Geraldo is an infectologist, an immunologist. Therefore, he is researching what is of the most interest for the human being at this moment. Because of this research, he is doing an integration of the discoveries of Dr. Keppe and is applying them to the field of medicine and is obtaining fabulous results. And this knowledge can revolutionize the field of health worldwide. So I urge journalists who do not work intentionally for those who are evil and powerful, for them to become conscientized and begin to apply this role of the social therapist through means of communication. Dr. Keppe?
I'm going to quickly explain right now about the origin of illnesses, because these ideas that Freud himself communicated, that the problem lay in a repression that had been determined in infancy, modern psychology in general uses these arguments as if it were an illness, something bad, mainly a psychological problem arising due to a trauma that a person had in his childhood. So the idea was laid out that the human being would be sane, and once in a while he would have an illness, a trauma that would result in a compulsive, obsessive, or even schizophrenic conduct. But then afterwards, Melanie Klein showed that since childhood, the human being is already very envious, is already sick. So, we who are Christians, and Christianity is not only a religion, it is much more a philosophy, and even indeed science. The Christian idea that Jesus Christ brought to us is that evil is in a person's soul. That is, evil would be more in psychological life. And the greatest of all evils is pride, arrogance, the arrogant individual who doesn't listen to anyone. Anything that is different from the way he thinks, he rejects. So, this individual is often referred to as the owner of the truth. He thinks that he knows what is true, and the rest of the world has no truth at all. Only he has. So, I would like to show you a chart now that I've made for you, so that we can see what are the signs of psychic illnesses.
First, the individual places himself above his parents, his teachers, analysts, etc.
This is a present that modern psychology, mainly the Anglo-Saxon psychology, brought to humanity. That of placing their children in a mode of asserting their will in everything. For example, questioning everything that their parents say, and then blaming the parents for everything that happens to them. The children commit mistakes, and these mistakes are blamed on the parents, attacking the parents. Or the parents placing the child as though he were on the same level as his parents, or his teachers, or even refuting what the greatest scientists say, questioning individuals of highly developed intelligence as if they themselves were the owners of the truth. Let's see now in second place.
A person who doesn't believe that she needs psychological treatment, that thinks she knows everything.
Yes, Mr. Know-it-all, the individual who thinks that he not only doesn't need any type of psychological treatment or psychotherapeutic help, but that he doesn't even need counseling of any type, doesn't need anything. He is able to solve anything very well. So we know that this type of individual resolves everything against himself, everything very badly done. Take a look in third place.
This one is above the others. In third place, the individual who thinks that he can accomplish any profession successfully. So he is a megalomaniac.
Sometimes a person has a profession. For example, he is a doctor, but wants to be a salesman. So he goes ahead and throws away everything that he achieved in his life. Or the individual who is a professional musician or salesman and then suddenly wants to do something totally different. He wants to be an administrator, wants to be an individual in a totally different field. Sometimes this happens when he is getting a bit older. But of course, the individual only does one thing well in life, in one profession. So in that profession, if he has a universal character, he's going to develop all the other factors in his life as well. By learning one profession very well, totally, completely, he will understand all the others. Take a look next at what I've written.
A person who never fixes himself in a professional activity. A person who never settles down.
He never settles down into a profession because he doesn't persist at one type of work. One day he is here, the next day he is there, and he is never able to deepen himself in anything. This is a sick individual. In fifth place,
the individual who explains everything or is always complaining about everything. All these people who do this have no idea they are like this.
This individual doesn't perceive that he is like this. That is, if he is very sick, he just doesn't perceive himself. Now, I'm going to show you something. Well, people who are capitalists detest it when I bring this up, because this consciousness takes their fortunes out of their hands. Take a look at the individual who caused a great harm for humanity.
Adam Smith.
Why did he cause so much harm? Because he placed money above work, as more important than work. He proposed that money and not work would be responsible for development, when in fact it's money that hinders everything. During the Industrial Revolution in England, he introduced an idea related to how to make money with this Industrial Revolution, by enslaving the employees, and sometimes children. Even young kids of 8 years old were forced to work and would often go hungry. This renegade capitalism was a very unhappy chapter in the history of humanity, conducted by very sick individuals, very greedy and voracious. And these individuals are the evilest people in society. The excessively greedy, avaricious individual is a very evil individual. He is a person who is unable to extend his hand for anything. To the contrary, as he is an anal sadistic person, he wants to pounce on other people through the use of money, to get everything he can for himself. For example, this renegade capitalism is like a thief. Why does a thief attack and sometimes kill others? He gives the excuse that he doesn't have the money that others have, the problem of envy. But the issue of money that he complains about is a type of excuse that he creates for himself in order to then give full vent to the aggression and destruction he commits against others. So let's see another author who caused a lot of harm for humanity.
John Maynard Keynes.
The stock market is based on him, on money that is saved. He told people to save money, and due to this, money speculation really came into play. And in the United States, there was an author who used this speculation issue a lot and obtained a certain fame over there as an American president. Let's see who it was.
Ronald Reagan.
We were living there during the beginning of his administration. We wrote the book Decay, The Decay of the American People and of the United States, and later another book, Work and Capital, showing that capital should be derived only from work. And so then, Reagan didn't like this idea very much, and we suffered an attack there, which unfortunately the media in Brazil backed, because it was in the same situation. The big morning newspaper here making their money more through speculation than through work. Take a look at this sentence.
The world, even though it has been damaged and plundered, represents the divine kingdom that God organized.
And this divine kingdom has been plundered and badly treated by whom? Take a look at these examples.
Examples of very sick individuals who have harmed and plundered the world. Benito Mussolini.
And who else?
Adolf Hitler.
We'll be back shortly, won't we, Claudia?
Even if we don't have a lot of consciousness, we can perceive that life is divine. We live in transcendence, whether we accept it or not. We still live in an earthly paradise, except we don't accept it. In fact, we attack what is most beautiful, good, and real. Consciousness of our envy and inversion will make it possible for us to return to this paradise we've abandoned. We don't need to build it. We just need to accept it. The Stop the Destruction of the World Association was created to bring about exactly this consciousness. We are working to return the world to goodness. Join us.
I would like to add a line of thought that I started in the first block, which I was unable to complete and was left a bit up in the air, which was the influence of David Rockefeller and of Carnegie in the beginning of the 20th century. In the first half of the century, when they adopted a conduct or a way of thinking that exteriorized medicine, or one can even say a type of paranoia similar to what Dr. Geraldo explains, which is a way of seeing microbes attacking us, the virus coming from the outside and generating a greater tension for the individual. And this resulted in the implantation of the pharmaceutical industry. Because if the illness is created in the individual's interior, as Keppe mentioned, and as Beauchamp introduced, and also Enderlein and Claude Bernard introduced. And they didn't even take the emotional aspect into consideration. However, they saw illness as being originated in the individual's interior, which would be unbalanced due to his lifestyle, etc. Now, we see this shock that there is. The exteriorized pharmaceutical medicine and the real medicine that focuses on the sick patient, the sick person's interior, and now, through the discoveries of Keppe, mainly related to energetics and the psychic part, acting through the energetic and forming illnesses, we now have a chance of obtaining a real medicine for humanity. The professionals in healthcare should pay attention to this. They should try to study this because now the doors are opening to something that is truly wonderful and can be the medicine of the third millennium and become oriented through this vision. That Enderlein, Claude Bernard, Beauchamp, Keppe, Giraldo are researchers, and I myself through the book The Cure Through Consciousness. This entire vision that we bring to you, which is confronted by Carnegie's vision, and mainly Rockefeller's, which through the American Medical Association derailed humanity. Because even in this period, doctors followed the French school more, and even the Germanic school. And following this period, the American school was followed by all, which is a paranoid school that sees things coming from the outside, and which implanted a pharmaceutical industry that exploits.
We are presently studying an author who is very close to our work. He lived at the end of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century, but he was concealed, literally hidden, covered up by the economic interests of the big multinational pharmaceutical companies that made medicine, and who wanted to continue extracting their fabulous profits from ailing people. And this incredible man, called Antoine Béchamp, clearly said that our cells are damaged by daily stress, and that it is not due to external issues. So, if we have blood cells, mainly white blood cells and red blood cells, and we are damaging these cells, then the external element in the world acts and the person becomes sick. So, I would like Dr. Giraldo to talk about this subject in this sense. Let's see.
Então gostaria que Dr. Geraldo falasse algumas palavras nesse sentido.
Dr. Keppe, una cosa interessante è che as pesquisas de Antonio Béchamp del século XIX fueron luego continuadas por Gunther Enderlein, quien estudió mucho o sangue vivo. Y nós agora, en nuestro departamento de medicina psicosomática da trilogia, estamos utilizando ese microscopio y hemos conseguido demostrar na práctica como todas as descobertas da trilogia analítica, as descobertas keppianas, se pueden demostrar no estudio do sangue vivo. No sangue vivo, no microscopio de campo oscuro, nós podemos ver claramente como as emoções negativas, a tristeza, a paranoia, a insatisfação, a raiva, influyen directamente no día a día de la pessoa, nos glóbulos vermelhos, nos glóbulos blancos y nos endobiontes de Enderlein, microcimas de Antonio Béchamp.
So, going back to the issue of the importance of the people's conscientization in this social therapy, the style of life that a human being leads today is not the appropriate style of life for his nature. As Dr. Keppe sees and discusses in the books that he writes, the human being in his origin should have a life that is focused on productivity and the accomplishment of everything that is good, beautiful, and truthful for oneself and for one's fellow man. We see that in our society that there are a lot of inverted values which make the human being a slave of money and for the small groups in power. So he is obliged to live a life which is against his nature, generating a violent stress as well, because it is always in conflict with the life that he should have and that we have in our interior. As if we were by intuition, through the universals of the human being, all of us have this notion in our interior, a desire to live the real life in a real society. A society with human, Christian, and scientific values, in a triological sense. Therefore, it is important for you to begin to conscientize that the present economic social laws are inverted and against the human being. And they are not a fatality. No, they are the omission, the distortion, and the destruction of the real social laws that should already and always have been existent in our social life. This is what Dr. Keppe explains in his books, and this is important that the journalists and the people begin to take stock of, so that one can begin to start this transformation on a great scale in humanity before it is too late.
I would like to show another chart about a danger that the nations are incurring. Take a look.
The governors are beginning to stop governing the nations. They are handing over the social power to the private sector.
So take a look, in this case, that they are thinking that the private sector, mainly of the social economic power, has more capacity to govern than the actual politicians. This means wanting an individual from another field to have the capacity of a politician, which he doesn't have. These people there, with economic power, cannot govern the people. They will make the people work for them. Of course, this is an inversion, due to the uncontrollable ambition that the international powers have, and who are weakening everyone with their economic power. Let's take a look now in third place.
Countries are belonging less to the people and belonging more to the millionaires.
And look at the observation.
Only 2% of the population have all the social economic power of humanity.
Have you ever thought about this? That humanity is now in the hands of 2% of the entire population. And the people are seen by them as being too many people on this planet. Just look at this atrocious inversion.
A developed people respect laws that are socially just.
Just laws, because even the founding fathers said this, that if a powerful person were to exploit the people against the interests of the population, then he should be impeached, forced out of his position by the population. Just look at how different our situation is today in relation to their posture. Take a look in second place.
The three main social bases are goodness, aesthetics, and justice.
Everything has to be based on these three elements. And you can see that aesthetics is something that humanity has abandoned. Inasmuch as without aesthetics, without beauty, nobody would even sell anything at all. You see, for example, one of the marvels that is thought that Sao Paulo has are the shopping centers. One of the 7 marvels. But what are these malls for? Just to sell things. The marvels are not the churches of the past anymore, like the Gothic cathedrals of the Middle Ages, or a great theater like the Paris Opera House. Now, they say that to sell things is marvelous. Just look at what an inversion this is. In third place,
society alone is above the human powers because it is divine. Observation. The human being needs to conscientize that he has to serve a society that is just.
I would like to state who we should base ourselves in, to have as our base and in our work in all sectors of life. Take a look at what I've written.
The conduct of Christ. First, as a scientist, he is a doctor and psychotherapist. He cured physicists and mainly psychologists.
So notice that he did not spend his life only preaching about religion, of course. He was curing everyone he had contact with, mainly psychological illnesses. In second place,
Second, as a thinker, he said, I am the path, the truth, and life.
so all correct thinking has to be based on what he said. Take a look in third place.
As a theologian, whoever believes in me believes in the one who sent me. Whoever believes in me believes in him, in God, the Father. This is the trilogy of Christ. So those who are interested in finding out more about this work, about social therapy, which we are accomplishing, can access our portal at www.trilogy.ws. There are many groups who work with social jobs and are accomplishing volunteer work and applying this knowledge. See you next time.